Let's go to Ian Rappaport next. We were talking a lot about the possibility that Trey Lance gets moved either at the draft or right before the draft or even possibly right after the draft. Now we're hearing a lot more reports about people calling on the Niners, although they're very specific reports, as I pointed out to us on the group text earlier. Here's Ian Rappaport. Sources, the 49ers have received inquiries from several teams looking into potential trade for the former number 3 pick quarterback Trey Lance. The conversations have been the result of San Francisco fielding the calls, not making the calls, with teams aware that Brock Purdy is the likely future starter. Guys, every single place I'm seeing this report, whether it's on Twitter or on television or on NFL.com, it doesn't matter if it's Rappaport or Pelissero or whatever talking head is saying it. They all love to throw in the fact that San Francisco is fielding the calls, not making the calls. Brent, when you talk about when you hear too much of it, it feels deliberate. This is where I'm at with this tweet. It feels very deliberate by maybe someone inside the San Francisco organization to put it out there. Trey Lance is on the block, but let's not make Trey feel bad about it.
Yeah, that's a good point. Well, I didn't think about as much about Trey's feelings, which we got to consider, I guess, nowadays, even though what has Trey Lance earned, really, right? I mean, how much has he done? Should we be concerned about his feelings?
Well,
but
should they have to sit with him? Yeah.
Yeah, I guess you got to worry about that. I think it is interesting when you have the language being the same pushed out to all different people, because that's definitely being leaked out there.
Yes.
Right? So how much smoke is there to this? But in my opinion, it brings up a fascinating question. Does Trey Lance hold more value as a trade piece to the 49ers before or after the draft, Kasey Kurtz? Before, where you set up, hey, I'm not going to wait and pick my guy in the draft. I'm going to go with Trey Lance. Let's just take a Houston, for example. I'm going to go get Will Anderson, and now I know I have Trey Lance. Or after the draft, when a team like Indianapolis doesn't get what they want and then needs to make a play for somebody, potentially, or that kind of circumstance.
Yeah.
He actually could hold some value after the draft if the draft doesn't fall out the way people think it might.
Yeah, I would say after and I guess during, because if you're San Francisco, and again, if they're not making the calls, whatever, we'll see if they do on draft night. But if you're a team or if you're San Francisco and you know you've communicated with a team that you literally just saw get jumped for a quarterback, or you're doing basic math and there's not a quarterback left, then do you call during the draft? You're like, hey, can we do this right now? But I think there's a ton of value after the draft.
It's interesting you mention it that way, Case. Let's take a look at this proposed trade, this hypothetical trade that involves the Indianapolis Colts, who definitely called San Francisco first in this hypothetical trade. Definitely called San Francisco.
Because they were fielding calls.
Yes. In this trade, this hypothetical trade scenario that I've got up on the screen, the Colts receive a whole Trey Lance.
All of Trey Lance?
All of Trey Lance.
Broken leg and all.
Good.
And then if I can read this correctly.
Some parts of his body haven't been working. So.
Right. It's all glued back together and ready to go. The 49ers would receive a 2023 third rounder and a 2024 fourth rounder. Do you do this if you're the Colts? Or the Niners, for that matter?
A 3 and a 4?
You're basically getting a third rounder and a fourth rounder from a team
It's picking high.
that is going to be picking high, even with Trey Lance.
Probably.
Third and a fourth. I would take that for Trey Lance. If you got Brock Purdy and you think he's a starter and you bought Sam Darnold, Brent?
I would do it in a heartbeat probably if I'm Indianapolis. San Francisco, I don't know if that's worth it, guys. Like, you're losing you're admitting a big-time mistake. Remember, they traded up to get this guy.
Right.
We're very convicted. You're admitting a big wrong. And also, Purdy is not a lock to be there this fall and play for you. So why wouldn't you wait it out and use Lance to see what you got and then use him as a trade piece later if you're locked on Brock Purdy?
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could possibly raise the trade value by using Trey Lance. If you believe the numbers we've seen thus far, feels unlikely that he'll be able to do so on the football field. But I'm just looking at it going, you brought Sam Darnold in, and Darnold can run that offense. He runs the West Coast offense well. I saw him do it very, 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 very briefly do it well in New York. I saw him do it decently in Carolina when they ran the West Coast when he was under center. Like, he can go to San Francisco and be all kinds of successful.
Well, Yeah, that's the thing. Like, just judging by what they've done with everybody but Trey Lance, whoever they put in there is going to play well. Sam Darnold, Brock Purdy, whoever. So, like, in that theory, I think if they were able to get a 3 and then even extra, it's a major loss for what you gave up to get that pick.
But that ship has sailed, right?
You have to play Brock Purdy when he's healthy, don't you? Like, you have to. I don't know.
Yeah.
It seems they feel that way.
They're in an interesting spot. I mean, they're in a very interesting situation. But here's the deal. You know how I feel about it. They've made the wrong decision before.
Yeah.
Like a couple of times.
Yeah, you hate them.
But what's the confidence level they're going to make the right one?
Well, here's the thing. Like, they're good enough to go to the Super Bowl with whoever it is.
Yeah, like, does it need to be
So,
the
like,
right
it
one?
might not
Is
be
really
the right
question.
one. Yeah.
I think Sam Darnold actually is fascinating.
Me too.
In this situation.
I think he's going to be great with them.
Love Sam.
He might. And is he Jimmy Garoppolo too? And Jimmy was good. So, again, I think Jimmy's going to be a little harder to have as good a time as he had in San Francisco because he doesn't have all the parts that he had in San Francisco in Vegas. Yeah, I think San Francisco is a fascinating piece when it comes to the quarterbacks, and really this draft in particular. And I like what you said, Kasey. I think, I probably should phrase the question not after the draft, but after, like, the first 5 picks. Like, his value maybe or the trade piece for San Francisco could really be there.